All right. Good morning and good afternoon. Thank you so much for making some time to join us this month for a somewhat special user group as we take a look at Redwood and what that means for Eloqua users. So let's dive in and give you an outline for the morning session. So we'll kick off with our usual welcome. We have a few questions that have been submitted, and then we're going to take a look at Redwood and understand what that looks like. How do I gain access? How much of it do I need to use, and all that kind of stuff. I'll answer, of course, any questions that you have in that process as well. In relation to initial navigations, tips and tricks, I'm honestly going to be learning with you, but I'll explain a bit more about that in just a few moments. There are a number of other updates that we thought were worthwhile covering with release 23B, so we'll expand on some of those. And then, of course, our usual Q&A. And I wanted to try and get a little bit of we'll give you some framework for the next 3 months, for the next series of the Eloqua user group, and help you understand what's coming up. So meet the team. My name is Derek Bell. I'm your host for this morning, and I'm the Director of Marketing and Customer Success at Marketing Cube and hosting your webinar today. Also on the line helping me is Adrian Jones, our CEO and founder, and Sean Camello, one of our account directors. And so Adrian and Sean will be assisting with the Q&A and the chat. So please make sure you use those if you do have any questions. And on that point, as you know, we use Zoom to host and record our webinars. You can catch up with replays on our blog following the user group. Always happy to take questions throughout. Just keep in mind the Q&A function is public, so everybody can see those. And the general idea is you can upvote some of those questions. If you had the same question, just go ahead and upvote that. If you wanted to ask a more discreet or private question, please use the chat in order to do that. So we had 2 questions submitted this month, and actually both from the same person and both from the US market. So I thought I would dive into them and attempt a response. So Laurie is asking the question here: is there an app that can help us track decision step, for example, question mark, if someone is following our social accounts? So in a discussion with our support team, there would be ways to do this from a custom object point of view, to bring certain information in through APIs. Now that's not quite an app per se, but it could eventually take the form of an app. Now there are hundreds of apps on the website, and unfortunately I've not had time to dig into all of those to see if there's any specific app at the moment that will help with that. But we are holding a webinar later this month, and some of you might have seen in the reminder emails and invitations for today's user group an invitation to attend on the 23rd of May. And we'll have the good people from Sprinkler attending. Now, if you've heard of Sprinkler, you'll know that they're all about social marketing and listening and all sorts of things that relate to social. And we're pretty pumped to have a look at that in the context of marketing automation and the levels of integration they have across various marketing automation platforms, including Eloqua. So we may well find an answer to that question on the 23rd of May with our friends at Sprinkler. So we may hold that question and present that to them during that webinar. So more information to come on that one for Laurie. Second one from Laurie was, is there any way to put a filter on an out-of-the-box dashboard? Before we connected to Oracle CRM, we were incorrectly using the campaign type and campaign product incorrectly, and the dashboard is corrupted by it. Okay, so the standard response, I think, to this one is essentially no. You can't retroactively alter some of that data. All you can do is configure it correctly moving forward so that all of your reports moving forward are in line with the values that you've placed within those campaign fields. Those campaign fields are fundamental, I think, to really understanding overall campaign performance. So the more effort we can put into configuring those and using those correctly, then the more insight you'll have. So unfortunately, I think, Laurie, the challenge is your data will get better over time, and all of that old data will eventually disappear from a time point of view. Okay, so if you've got any questions or further questions in relation to those different reports, please let me know. Of course, you can apply filters, but not to do what I think you're asking, which is to filter out old data. All righty, so why are we all here today? So we're here today to take a look at the new Redwood design. So I want to give you a little bit of background first before we jump in, just to help you understand when it's coming, how to access it, who can access it, what the long-term plan is, et cetera, and so on and so forth. So let's do that. So the first question is when? Okay, so at Marketing Cube, we're on pod 1. And so that literally went live Saturday afternoon, evening, our time here in Australia. The process of obtaining access to Redwood is via a service request because the functionality is in controlled availability. So I want to talk you through that here in just a few moments and give you a little bit of detail. For the rest of those, most or many of the Australian, New Zealand, and certainly some of the Asian clients are on pod 7. So pod 7 is a server that sits here in Sydney, Australia, and that also went live on Sunday. So pod 7 is completed now, and you should, as the administrators, have received notifications in relation to that. So if you're on any of the other pods, though, we're looking towards the latter half of the month, around the 18th and 19th of May. Now, those dates that you see on screen are US East Coast dates. So essentially just add a day for the Asia Pacific region. And the other ones are added just for reference. So you can see 23C and 23D happening in August and November of this year. That will be important because there's more information about Redwood that will come in those releases as well. And we'll expand on that here in a moment. Now, along with all of the information that's being provided from Oracle in relation to Redwood, they just wanted to give everybody a reminder, which I think is a good thing. Let me just scan down the list here. Hey, Malcolm. I can see Malcolm's on the line with us. So Malcolm's based in Brisbane, and Malcolm is a big fan of the Dream It section, where you can essentially log an idea. So you're a user of Eloqua, you love the platform, but you really wish it did this, or you really wish it did that, or maybe you wish it didn't do something. That might be the other way to look at it. So these all fall under what we call the Dream It section within Eloqua. Within Topliners. And so what you're able to do is log into Topliners, which you can access from within Eloqua, but you will need to log in with your Oracle ID to do that. And make sure, if you've not created an account, make sure you use your work email address. It's your work email address and your domain that validates that you are in fact an Eloqua client. Okay, so just FYI on that one. And so once you get in here, what you're able to do is click on the new idea option. First thing I would actually encourage you to do is to take a look through and do some searching to see if the idea that you have isn't, in fact, already listed by another user. It could well be. If that's the case, then what you can do is actually upvote. And so that's what the little number that you see there. So 29 people in this instance have upvoted that particular Dream It function. So you can drill into that and read in more detail. You can comment on it, add your view or your perspective to it as well. But all of that information is incredibly helpful for the product marketing team as they look to prioritize different types of functionality that clients are looking for. So you may see from time to time a reference to Dream It idea delivered. And so that's what this is referring to. So a Dream It idea is something that a client has suggested and eventually has made it through to product development and becomes a feature of the platform. So just a reminder to participate in that process, jump into Topliners, get involved, and provide your feedback. Okay, so Redwood experience is in software language is what we call controlled availability. So controlled availability means essentially that anybody can gain access to it. That's not a problem, but you just simply need to log a service request with Eloqua, or you can do it through Marketing Cube as a client of Marketing Cube. We're happy to do that for you on your behalf. The key thing is this bottom point, okay? And it's the last bullet point. Decide whether all users or only certain users can use the new Redwood experience. Having thought this one through and putting on more of a change management hat than anything else, and having lived through multiple software upgrades for enterprise platforms in my career, I would suggest that the earliest you can get your team access to Redwood, the better it's going to be for everybody. Now, the nice thing is, so my suggestion is that you enable it, you ask Oracle to enable it for all of your users. And the reason I do that without hesitation is because you do have the ability to flick the switch on and off. So as an individual user, I can turn Redwood on, but I can also then turn Redwood off. Now, that functionality isn't going to be available forever. And so is there really much value in holding off and holding off and holding off until we finally get the notification from Oracle to say, hey, the old interface is now being retired. Everybody will be forced to use Redwood. And this, I don't know when that's going to be. It could be maybe 12 months from now, potentially. But you don't want to be that group of users who have never seen Redwood, and all of a sudden you go home on Friday, loving life, come to Monday, and the entire platform has changed in the way you access and look at information, etc. Not the ideal experience from a change management point of view. So my suggestion to you, again, from a change management perspective, is to think about, if you do request access, and I'd certainly encourage you to request access, is that you just simply request it for all users. There's no need to break it up. But I'll leave you to think that one through. And if you've certainly got any questions, please think that through. If you do maybe have some thoughts on that from a change management point of view, maybe throw something into the Q&A. I'm sure there's loads of people on this call who have got experience dealing with similar types of events with software platforms, with large user communities. I think your perspective would be good. We could do it like Q&A on TV. We could take it as a comment, if you like, not a question or one providing an answer. All right. So once you're in, you'll be able to switch back and forth. And so that's the key point, I think. That's the ability to move backwards and forwards between the two interfaces, should you need to. I'm going to try not to, personally. I've turned it on, and hopefully I'll never turn it off. So that will be my approach. Now, the approach to the Redwood design and the experience is actually coming to us from a little bit of a drip feed point of view. I think this is a good idea, again, from a change management point of view. So instead of the entire interface changing lock, stock, and barrel, it is in fact happening in sections, okay? So the key objects that you'll experience Redwood on once you turn it on are listed right here. So it's My Eloqua, that's the home screen. As soon as you log into Eloqua, that's what you'll see, which is Redwood. From there, the contacts area, the accounts area, microsites, and also campaign settings. So they're the 5 key areas that you will experience the visual change and the user experience change with Redwood. And we'll show you that here in just a moment. So what happens after that? Okay, so they've already provided, they being the Oracle Eloqua product marketing team, have told us that as we move to later releases in the year, so that'll be 23C and 23B. So I think from memory that we looked at that, right? It was August and November, I think. And so what we'll see in August and November is an extension of the Redwood design applied to additional areas within the platform. I don't know which areas they will be, but it will slowly roll out. So again, I think the point is the sooner you can get your user community switched over and having access to Redwood, the easier that process will be. They can get familiar with it. They still have the comfort of accessing the key areas like today when you build emails and landing pages and forms and campaigns. That experience visually is not changing at this point. So I imagine that will come hopefully before Christmas, and we'll see some changes there as well. So get them in, get involved, log the service request. Again, you please feel free to do that with Marketing Cube. You can email us at support@marketingcube.com.au, and as long as we have access to be able to do that for you, we can absolutely complete that task, no dramas. The key thing, though, is when you do send it through, just confirm for us either a list of individuals, their email addresses will be fine, that you want to give access to, or simply indicate that you want access for all users across your instance of Eloqua. All right, let's take a look at Redwood and a bit more detail. Too many things open. Okay, I will come back to that because I want to show you a comparison, but let's dive straight into Redwood. So when you first arrive in Eloqua today, actually, let me go back, I'll reverse that, sorry. When you first come into Eloqua today, this is your experience. What you'll be able to do once it's been activated is flick a switch here at the bottom of the screen called Use Redwood Design. And when you flick that switch, it will automatically change to this interface being Redwood. So welcome to Redwood. So initially, when you look at it, I think you'll be very comfortable with it. It really is kind of the same information presented ever so slightly differently, but not that different, etc. But there are some nice enhancements that I think are worth looking at. And let me walk you through those. The first one is up here, looking at the total database activity for the last 30 days. This has been a traditionally pretty static type of information, but now you can actually play with it and slice the data up a little bit to sort of narrow things down. So if you're wanting to look at new contact and database growth over the last 30 days, you can single that out and look at that. If you're wanting to look at new visitors potentially, so these are net new individuals who are unknown to you, and unknown to your database. So you can see we had a little bit of a spike there on the 25th. And you can see that goes through. Now you can overlap them as well. And that's the default. When you first arrive, that's the default experience that you'll have. Now, what you'll notice down the left-hand side under recent is you'll see we have some new icons. Okay, so hopefully they're reasonably self-explanatory. Like any visual tool, you just need to kind of get a second to determine exactly what it is. But we have campaigns, we have program. No, that's a form. It's a form, etc. Then email. That one's kind of simple. This one is a landing page. I know it says form, but that's my naming convention. So that one's a landing page, and the same scenarios of active and draft, etc., that you would expect to see against them. Shortcuts are available over here, so we can go through the process of editing those and selecting others should you want to. So what you do is simply click on one, say next. So we can have 4 shortcuts in place, and here's the whole list of those. So if I want to replace emails with Insight, I can then just click on update, and that will push that through. And now Insight becomes my shortcut. So you can go through that process as it. So it looks like a maximum of 4 there, which was the same today. Activity, same thing. So we're looking at team members and what they're doing and how recently they've done it, etc. One of the most significant changes here, though, is from a visual point of view, you might remember, if I take you back here, so you've got overview, campaigns, and approvals. Well, some of you won't have approvals. That's a feature for some clients. But yeah, so that's the buttons down the left-hand side. You'll notice now they sit across the top of the screen. So the big enhancement here, and it might seem really mundane, but I think it's so incredibly helpful, is a new tab called ending. Okay, so in the previous instance, when you went to campaigns, you had campaigns completed this week, those that were active, and any that you might have scheduled. However, over here, we now have active first, which I kind of think makes sense, have active first, anything that might be scheduled. Notice also now you can go from here straight to creating a campaign. So previously you couldn't, you had to go back to campaigns and navigate through. So a bit of a shortcut. Completed. And so that's completed this week essentially, but you now have the ability to apply a little bit of a filter to that as well. So you can get a little bit more granular in relation to campaigns that have completed in the last 30 days. Now, the new one, and I think this is the great one, is called ending. And the same thing with ending, you've got the ability to look at any campaigns that will be ending within the next 7 days or the next 30 days. Now, that's incredibly helpful, especially if you've got a larger team, you have people on annual leave and so on and so forth. It's good to be able to get some clarity around, well, what is coming up? What will be concluding? Do we in fact want that to conclude? Should I potentially deactivate that campaign, extend the end date, and then reactivate that particular campaign? So I think that's a nice addition. That's actually, I believe, a Dream It request. So again, somebody's logged that request, made that suggestion, and that's a Dream It that's come to life. So they're the main changes that you'll see there on the home screen. Now, the other areas that we've got to play with are contacts and accounts. So let's have a look at contacts. And again, pretty much it's the same type of interface. It's sorry, not interface. What you see on the screen is really not that different. But if we take a look at an individual, I'm going to pick on Adrian. You'll see there's a few Adrians, but same thing in relation to your different views. So you may have different contact views in place. So you can adjust your filters to look at those in different ways. So here we go. Let's take Adrian, his real contact. Now, this is the change. I think this is a nice change because in reality, what I get now is a lot more information on my screen compared to what I used to get. So if I go to contacts and I look at Adrian Jones over here, And here he is. I start off, first of all, I've got my 27-inch monitor, and I've got this tiny window right in the middle of the screen with multiple tabs. So all of the information through Redwood is the same, it's available, but you in fact get to see more of it on the screen at the same time without having to click through tabs and so on and so forth. So you can move from left to right with these. Same sort of exercise in relation to adjusting the view. So you can still adjust your view and see that information over here. Now you will notice there's a view more option at the bottom. So if you click on a view more, it now changes and you'll see that you've got the ability now to scroll up and down through that big long vertical. But at the same time, you're not losing the visual across everything else that you're looking at. So you can still see scoring, you can still see activities, you can still see campaigns, any linked records that you may have, et cetera, et cetera. So the thing I like about it is I now get to see a lot more information on the screen, and the close option is here at the top. So we can close that. I get to see a lot more information on the screen at the same time. Now, the pencil that you see, the pencil icon here is kind of the universal symbol within Eloqua to edit. And so that's what the edit screen looks like. So I can come in here and have a look at that as well and make those changes. If you're using custom objects a great deal, then you've got the ability to access information from within that. And so it pops up and gives you other details and the information that you would be used to seeing. But again, the nice thing I think is that I can now see this data in the context of everything else. I'm not having to go backwards and forwards to potentially look at the same sort of information. Okay. You can search by email groups. If you've got a lot of email groups, that can become a bit complex. You've got the view more link again at the bottom, but you can see all of the email groups here. So if you're searching for one specific one, you can search like so, and there it is. So modern marketing, etc. Currently not subscribed, or no status is technically the right thing. This is the key thing that people often want to get to. Sometimes you have a phone call from somebody maybe in compliance saying that Adrian Jones no longer wants to hear from us at all. Please make sure he's globally unsubscribed. So again, that's nice and easy to get to. You can simply click on unsubscribe and it's game over. But you can still see the valid email address and all that other sort of fun stuff as well. So you do have some date filters as well here to play with. So last 30 days, again, this is not new. This is the same as what you've been able to access today, applying different filters. Although you can apply custom in the current ones as well. Now, just as a heads up, I think I said to you in the intro, I managed to get access to what we're looking at today at about 11 o'clock last night. So I'm kind of learning with you. I've been navigating around all morning just to try and get familiar and become comfortable with all the different navigation. But yeah, so big thanks to the Oracle team for getting us on board and up and running this quickly. So thank you to them. All right. So back to our context overview. So if we go from there to the account view, now let's see, there is a question here from Malcolm. Are the ending campaigns hyperlinked? All right, let's jump back and have a look. Oh, wrong screen. Home screen, my Eloqua. Okay, so we want to go to campaigns, ending. And I think under actions, if I click on campaign audit, there we go. That opens straight to the audit. If I close that, I'm then at the canvas. So I'd say partially would be my response, Malcolm. Would you agree to that? So again, if I'm here and I'm looking at those that are ending, that it's, oh, no, there we go. Sorry, it is hyperlinked. It is hyperlinked. So that's a yes to your question, Malcolm. All right, another question from Malcolm. So that you can click straight through to the campaign that is ending. Yeah, of course. Yeah. Okay. So cool. We've determined that, which is good. All right. And Lindell, hello, welcome. Are we able to expand out the activity section with the contact in the window show displayed URL? Are we able to see more detail? Sure. Let's jump in and have a look. So I'll pick on Adrian again. I type in Derek, that works. Adrian Jones. So, Lindell, I'm honestly learning a little bit like you at the moment. All right, so there is a view more at the bottom. So I can click there. I can see all the relevant activities, which you would usually come in then and probably look at trying doing some filtering on that, which we can do over a certain period, etc. The one thing that I've just thought through is how do I access Profiler? Okay, so I can't, let me just see your question again. Are we able to expand out the activity section within the contact? In the window show it displayed URL, are we able to see more detail? So from a URL point of view, I suppose we'd be looking at website visits. So if we hover over those, we get more information as in the full URL that's being displayed. But this is probably where I would jump from here to Profiler potentially, if I was wanting to get that granular detail on an individual within the platform. But that does beg the question. Okay, I'm going to have to go away and come back with that one, unless anyone on the line potentially has access already to, yeah, not sure. So I'm going to have to work out how to access Profiler, Lindell, which I think is where we would typically want to go. One thing that I did notice when you open these windows to get more information, you click on that view more at the bottom, you kind of inherently, I found I wanted to click over here, but that's not how it works. You need to scroll back to the top and select close in order for that to happen. So Profiler, I need to work that out. I'll see if I can make that update and get that into the blog update for you as well. So let's go back to accounts. Thank you for those questions, guys. So if I click on look for marketing cube, so we're now in the account view. So what you're going to see essentially is very similar type of information. Okay. Again, you've got the ability to adjust the different views, etc. It will all depend on how you have this configured and what's important to you within your organization. So easy enough to play with. Very similar in its look and feel. Remember, there is that ability to click on the asterisk or type in an asterisk and hit enter, which will just give you everything essentially within the system. And again, you can still play with your different views to adjust. Now, the upload process remains the same, just visually, it's a little bit different. So if you are in the habit of uploading Excel, is the same for accounts and contacts, there's no difference. You can go through exactly the same process. Okay, drag and drop the file, still Excel or CSV, whichever's easiest, and go through the wizard. So no change there. If that's something that you do on a regular basis, like after an event or like an open day for universities, you may have manual data from different sources you need to upload. So that process hasn't changed, simply visually it's changed through the UX. All right, then the other areas that we were looking at. So let me just show you again. So if we go off to programs, you'll see there's no change at the moment. If you go to campaigns, there's no change at this stage. Emails, landing pages, forms, etc., no change. So from a comfort level point of view, you'll still be able to get on and do what you've always done, doing it exactly the same way that you've always done it. No major hassles or challenges there. Now, website setup, the microsite area has been updated. And so this will be helpful primarily for the administrators on the call or those who are potentially managing your website as well. So your webmaster type person and all that kind of fun stuff. Now, remember with the new SSL certificate arrangement, certainly by the end of this year, I think we're pretty much down to pods 1 and 2. That's Marketing Cube, for example. Pods 1 and 2 will be live, hopefully no later than November, but potentially in August, with Eloqua managing that SSL certificate process for you. So that SSL certificate, that's the S in HTTPS on your landing pages and making sure that images and landing pages will display for people in certainly in more secure environments. If it's not a secure page, some pages simply won't display. So pretty much everybody, I don't think there's anybody left, certainly within our client base, who doesn't have the SSL certificates active on their account. The only change will be moving forward that Eloqua is going to manage that for you. So expiry dates will come and go, and Eloqua will manage that renewal process for you, which is a great thing. Campaign settings. There we go. This is an area of Eloqua that I probably visit once every 3 months, if that. And so, okay. So these are this area of Eloqua, typically you kind of set this up when you first get Eloqua, and then you probably never look at it again, unless you have significant changes in the way that you choose to run your business that you want Eloqua to reflect that information. So campaign settings, probably a nice, easy one for them to make the updates to. So no big changes there. All right, let me just jump and have a look at questions. Do we have anything else? You're welcome, Lindell. Alana, pod 7. Okay, so you're on pod 7, Alana. So you could be active. Well, let me rephrase. The option for you to request access to Redwood is available. So that simply needs to log a service request with Oracle, and they will be able to turn that on for you. And from what I understand, that's pretty quick. It might take a day or two. It's literally a bit of a flick of a switch, from what I understand. It's not that complicated, which is good. But again, have a think through your user community and who on the team should potentially have access. Our suggestion is let the whole team have access. Let them have the control so that they can become familiar with it as a new interface. All right. Now, there were a few other things in relation to this release that we wanted to cover off with you. And there was actually just this one last slide I wanted to show you. I was thinking at 11 o'clock last night, I was on the laptop on the couch and looking at Redwood. And I thought, I'll just grab a screenshot of that. So I was curious to see what the comparison was on the desktop, which I'm now upstairs looking at the desktop. So I was trying to work out how am I going to show these two things to you. So I've just done screenshots essentially across the two. And you can see it's pretty much the same. You just get, obviously with 27-inch monitor, there's a bit more real estate to play with. So you just get a little bit more information potentially on screen, mostly visual, almost visually. That doesn't make sense, does it? Visually speaking, the biggest increase is probably here in the recent area. So you get a little bit more information here than you do over here on the laptop. But nice to see that you're certainly not impaired from a laptop point of view. You're not going to be navigating left and right or up and down constantly from that point of view. So yeah, I just wanted to show you that. I thought that would be interesting. All right. Now, another piece that popped up in this update, which is largely as a result of bots. Okay. So we're calling it an intermediate unsubscribe page. So why is this important? First of all, let me explain to you what the problem is and help you understand why this potentially is a solution to that particular problem. So the question for you is, at the moment, when people click on the unsubscribe link in your footer, and now it may say manage my preferences, maybe a whole range of different words, but essentially it's the unsubscribe link. It's giving people the ability to opt out of communications. So what happens to those people when they click on that link in your emails? Are they taken to the standard Eloqua out-of-the-box subscription page? Okay, so that's a page that everybody has. It has your logo at the top. It basically lists the email groups that you choose to display with an option at the bottom to say, opt me out of all communications if I want to, etc. Hit submit, and they get a very generic confirmation page with a big green circle and a tick. And that's it. Okay, that's the out-of-the-box solution. Or perhaps you take them to a branded preference center. So maybe they click on that link, they arrive at a page which potentially summarizes their profile data that you have on them, and then potentially lists their subscriptions, which in your language is a combination probably of email groups and potentially checkboxes to show interest in certain things that you balance off with email groups, etc. Or do they go from the email directly to a confirmation page that says, thank you for unsubscribing? Now, in Marketing Cube, that last option is the one that we always encourage people to not do, okay? You spend a lot of time and money to get people into your database. Don't just simply open the trapdoor and let them fall out. because they click on that link. At least try and have some dialogue with them. And that's what the first two options on that page do. So that single click, as I said, that's really not something that we would encourage you to think through or to use. So first thing is, if that's what you are doing, there's probably a bigger discussion that needs to happen, or we'd like to encourage you to have that discussion. If you're using either of these two options, the out-of-the-box subscription page or a branded preference center, what I'm about to show you next is irrelevant. So if you've got a tea or a coffee next to you or a Milo or whatever, have a sip, and I'll just spend a minute here with those people who are in fact utilizing that last option. Okay. So where does the unsubscribe link go? If I click on that unsubscribe link in the footer of your email and it takes me directly to a thank you for unsubscribing, which is kind of a counterintuitive comment, isn't it really? But anyway, thank you for unsubscribing. Okay, so in other words, they go directly from the email to the confirmation page and nothing happens in between. That's the problem, okay? And that's the problem because what's happening is increasing number of clients, let me rephrase that, increasing number of IT departments within certain businesses and organizations are using bots to not only look for viruses and those sorts of things, but they're actually clicking on every link in an email to validate that it's a real link. Okay. Now, the challenge is the unsubscribe link in your email is in fact a real link. It is. And that will be validated. That's fine. And the email goes through. But what's happening is some of these bots are actually globally unsubscribing your contacts and not the person. So the person's not clicking on the link, the bot is clicking on the link. Okay, so how do we stop that? The only way to stop it is to provide a break. Okay, we need to provide a break between clicking on that link and then essentially being globally unsubscribed. So we need to put a page somewhere in between, a page and a form. And so that's why it's called an intermediary landing page. So it sits in the middle between the two. For those who have this particular scenario, the quickest fix is to do as follows. So you go to landing pages, you go to create a template, and Oracle, very nice of them, have created a template for you called intermediate unsubscribe, if I hold that still long enough, template. So I double click on that. Now I have the ability to create, as I normally would, I can create a microsite, I can give it whatever URL I want to give it, etc. You do have the ability to do some styling here as well. So if you wanted to actually make it look a little bit more like a landing page, for example. So here at Marketing Cube, we'd probably do something like this. We'd drop in some shared content because our shared content has our logo in it, so it matches everything else across our website. Probably adjust my padding, etc. I probably want to put a footer on there as well, so it looks a bit more legitimate and not like some dodgy page that was prepared in some backyard somewhere. So on brand is always a better option, right? So I can select this one. Well, actually, that's the wrong one, so I don't want that one. I want a different one. And what I want is this one. And so I drop that in. Again, just adjust my, actually, that's the wrong one. But anyway, so you can see you can do some styling and make some adjustments and so on and so forth to it. The one thing I can't work out how to do is I can't change that button. There must be a way, though, because there's JavaScript and other things that you can play with. So someone a little bit more gifted than myself could probably help you do some styling on that particular button. But once you've got that page published, etc., that URL is the one that you're going to want to use when you drop it into and update your email footers. Now, if you got lost in amongst all of that somehow, the first point I would make to you is that having a single click unsubscribe is certainly not a best practice solution unless you receive specific legal advice that tells you that that's what you have to do. I suppose that what I've just showed you is still potentially going to be a challenge for the legal team. But if you've got questions about that process and what that looks like and the ramifications of it, please reach out to us. We'd be more than happy to have a chat with you. But the other thing is building a preference center is a much smarter way to do it. Being able to capture people's subscriptions, their preferences, etc., is a much nicer way to be able to go through that process. All right. So in summary, the intermediaries unsubscribe landing pages will help protect against the unintentional unsubscribes resulting from those email scanning tools. And so maybe this is a message for your legal team if you feel they may come up to, or you may come up to some brick walls with this idea. So it offers a solution for direct unsubscribe links. It's easy to implement. You can customize it, as you saw, to reflect your brand. And you can enable from the email configuration screen. So you can do that under email config. Your administrator will be familiar with that. You can update it there, and you can then also update the actual physical link that is in the footers of your various emails as well. Now, there were a couple of other enhancements with 23B that we thought were worthwhile sharing. So let me dive into those and walk you through some of those. One of the first ones is possibly something you thought maybe even happened today, or maybe you weren't even quite aware as to what happened. But this is, again, from a security point of view, this is a great enhancement. It's good for everybody. And so essentially now all images and files that you upload, or emails or landing pages that you upload. So some of you probably have never played with the uploading of emails or landing pages, but some of our larger clients with agencies and other folks will sometimes get a zip file from a designer and then want to upload that particular zip file. So if there's any malware detected during that upload, it simply won't complete, and you'll get a message displayed letting you know that it has failed. And you probably need to go back to whomever provided you with the file to try and figure out why that's the case. Okay. Malcolm says, I take it this would also be a problem for the blind form submit. So Malcolm, you're talking back about that intermediary page. Yeah, I agree with you. I probably want to get confirmation from our support team, but I'm going to suggest to you, yes, it would be the same problem because the click is happening automatically. What we need to do is to break. That was my point with the dotted lines there between the two. We need to put a break where a human actually has to then click on a button on the landing page to confirm they want to be globally unsubscribed. Whereas the bot will just click straight through if it's a link. So so I think that's still a blind form is not going to fix the problem in that case. Okay. So that one I think is a good one from a security point of view. The other one is in relation to performance enhancements with building segments. And again, this is quite possibly something that you may not notice. However, if you're an Eloqua user that is potentially building segments that can equal in the high hundreds of thousands or even millions, of which we certainly have clients who build segments to that type of volume, when they hit save on a segment, it can take a while, longer than you'd like it to take, okay? So the current behavior and after 23B, so 23B is where we are today, or this month is release 23B. So the current behavior is that each filter execution of a segment is against the whole contact database. So if your whole contact database is 2, 3, 4 million people, then that's a big database, okay? And so the filtering and the work that's happening in the back end, it obviously takes processing power in order to do that, and speed is kind of the key that most people want. After 23B, the exclusions will be applied only on the contacts returned from the other included filters in the segment. Okay, so there's no change to the outcome or the result of what you get when you apply your filters. Nothing's changing from your point of view at the front end, but in the back end, there is significant changes happening to speed up the result for you when you hit save and you wait for that number to update on your segments. Okay. So again, look, if no one told you, you quite possibly wouldn't notice. Here at Marketing Cube, we have a relatively small database compared to many of our clients. So it's really never an issue, but I certainly have sat with clients during coaching and other sessions who have much larger databases, and yeah, it's kind of like, so how was your weekend? Okay, that will be great. And again, it's good to see. I mean, all of these things are super critical to the overall performance of the platform and how you and I have our experience. And I think the other key message all of these enhancements really send is that Oracle continues to invest, and there's so much more coming before we get to Christmas, which is quite exciting. I wanted to cover off a couple of those with you. We're almost finished for the day, and I'm almost finished. We've got one more here from a custom object point of view. So this one will be helpful for those who are using custom objects to a significant amount. And so the Marketing Operations Center, which in some instances may only be visible to your administrators, but depending on how you got your system configured, but you'll be able to see a count of total custom object records, and that'll be added to the operations center. So total custom object records and the net difference will be visible on the main page. And so that means you're able to get a better feel for changes, et cetera, that have been happening. Because every record obviously is a human or a behavior that a human has completed that's come into the custom object. Now, there are limits, but those limits on the custom objects are in the millions. Okay, so it's going to take you a long time before you reach any limits on those things. That's not really what this is all about. This is really just giving you much better insight to the mechanics of what's happening with your custom objects, how busy they are, how much work they're going through, etc. And the drill down report is going to give you a little bit more information as well. So again, good information, probably more interest to those people who are administrators within the platform. Okay. And Maddie says, can you export the exclusions from the segment or the segment only? You haven't stumped me, Maddie, but let's jump in. We've got a second here. Let's have a quick look. So if I go to segments, let's take subscribers. All right. So what you're wanting to see, Maddie, is if I view contacts, can you export the exclusions? So I come here to excluded, and I can click on export. Now I would need to actually export that specifically to make sure that the 3,865 people are in that exported file, Matt, versus, if I does changing this here, going from included to excluded to all, for example, is that going to actually export them? I would need to do an export, Maddie. You know what? Once we're finished here today, I'll go through that process. If you right-click the exclusion filter and click view, all right, Malcolm. It's always handy to have you on the call. So another way Malcolm is suggesting is we can click on these. So you can see there's multiple exclusions that we have in this particular segment. So Malcolm is suggesting you could look at doing a right click and then click on view contacts. So that will give you a breakdown by each exclusion. What I was looking at was total exclusions. So I went to view contacts and looked at excluded. And so it's given me all exclusions. But I imagine Malcolm's suggestion is probably more helpful because you're now drilling in on just the individuals that are in each of those particular exclusions. What do you think, Maddie? Does that make your life a little bit easier? Because you can still select it. You see there, let me go back. View contacts, you can still export from there as well. And that will default with your user information. My only caution to you there, Maddie, is just be careful. Depending on the information you're exporting, there could be personally identifiable information contained in that. And you probably want to avoid the scenario potentially where you've got that information lying around in Excel files within the organization. So that'd be my only tip for you. All right. Thank you very much, Malcolm. Thanks for jumping in. All right. So do we have any other questions in relation to anything that we've covered today? I've kind of hit that. I can't believe I was wondering if we would get to the end or if I'd have time, but we've got 6 minutes. So are there any other questions at all in relation to any of those points? If not, let me give you some insight quickly into next month. So over the next 3 months, what we've decided to do this year, following a little bit from last year, is to kind of take a key topic and break it down over a 3-month period. So not really a quarter, because we're running out of sync with that. But anyway, so over a 3-month period. So what we want to focus on over the next 3 months, and I'm happy to throw this to you for a little bit of input, is we want to focus around lead capture, or lead generation and lead capture. So this is going to be very specifically looking at forms and landing pages and email design and looking at multi-channel type of stuff. So if I'm looking at LinkedIn or Facebook and trying to get those sort of leads into our Eloqua database, how do I go about doing that? Part of that exercise, again, is this webinar we're hosting on the 23rd of this month with our friends at Sprinkler, which is obviously a big channel, being social. And so if you've got time, and go back through some of these emails, but chances are you will get an invitation anyway this week to that for the 23rd, which will be at 11 a.m. I think Tuesday is the 23rd, at the end of this month. And so that'll be sort of helping kick off that whole construct around lead acquisition, lead nurture, lead management, etc. So the next 3 months is all about leads. So if there's anything specific that you would like me to cover during that process, I would love to hear from you. So you've got the question construct within any of our emails now. So if you wanted to use that, you can submit a question through there, or please feel free to email me directly. I'd love to hear from you as to what you'd like to see and what's kind of pressing from your point of view when it comes to lead management as a whole. So we'll get some more information to you with our rough outline of what the next 3 months look like. And we look forward to seeing you next month. So thank you, everybody. Thank you so much for making some time to be with us. We appreciate you doing that. If you do have any questions, I'm happy to stay on the line for a little bit longer. Otherwise, I look forward to seeing you next month, or even on the 23rd of May. Thank you very much, everybody.